My name's Matt Chaisley, and I was asked by the guys running this thing to do a video talking about my movies. So here we go. I'm hanging out in the local cemetery. Kind of creepy, but kind of cool. So come on in and join me. Let's see, Back from Hell, Legion of the Night, The Necrophiles, Anti-Hero, 300 Killers. I guess my influences were probably George Romero, filmmakers like that, John Carpenter. This is coming out of the 80s. Revolution 666, Necrophiles 3000, and the new one is Detroit Driller Killer. I started like a lot of filmmakers back in the day with Super 8. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, Super 8 was the thing. That was the home market camera before video came around. And you know, you'd buy the little cartridges of film, and it was exciting because you could project it on the wall and get a really big picture. So it was kind of like, you know, making a real movie and going to the movies when you watched the stuff. So I started with the Super 8, making short films, zombie movies and slasher movies and action movies and all that stuff with the kids in the neighborhood. Made dozens and dozens of those all through the 80s. And then got some jobs working on some local feature films made by other people. One of them was called The Carrier, which was shot about a half an hour from where I lived. And another one I worked on was called Mosquito, which was shot in Detroit, not far from where I lived. So I got jobs working on these movies and sort of, you know, learned a lot. It helps if you work on somebody else's movie first before you start your own, definitely. See the ins and outs of how things work. Those people that were staring at me left. My God. They're on their phones. I thought they were calling the cops. But we decided to shoot on 16mm for the first couple of movies because video just wasn't up to snuff yet. I mean, video was like a completely amateur format at the time and looked like crap, you know. This is before HD. And, you know, I thought if you're going to put so much trouble into making a movie, you know, you should try to make it look good. And 16mm seemed like the way to go. You know, that was like the film stock they used on The Evil Dead and Basket Case and, you know, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Driller Killer and all of those kind of movies of the era were all shot on 16mm, so that's what we were really going for. Any indie producer will tell you that the hardest part about making movies is the money. It's really expensive to do, even if you're shooting on video. Obviously, you have to buy stuff unless you're lucky enough to just have every prop that you need in your garage. And you can write your script around that, which is always a good idea, but you know, you also have to give actors usually something, at least feed them, you know, if you're going to shoot for a couple of weeks. And yeah, money's really hard to find. My first movie, Back from Hell, took 4 years to complete on 16mm. You know, I thought I was never going to finish that thing. So at this point, we were thinking of trying something new, like shooting on video, because, you know, this was back in the mid-90s, and a lot of movies were being shot on video, and they were starting to look pretty good, because you had things like the film look process, which was helping. You know, film was so expensive, you know, you had all of your money basically goes into equipment, and film processing, and developing, and all of that stuff. So we thought we'd try shooting on video, and that film became The Necrophiles. And the idea of that movie, I guess at the time, was to make a parody of sort of underground SOV movies, at least how we saw them. You know, it sort of had all the ingredients of what we saw as like sort of underground horror movies. All those ingredients just sort of like pumped up, you know, through the ceiling. But the way I go about it these days is I usually shoot without a script. You know, we'll come up with a basic outline of the movie, and you know, every day sort of work with what we have, because on a really low budget, you know, you can't, if you lock yourself into a script, then you need everything that's in that script. You know, if you just sort of, you know, are open to what you have available every day, then you can sort of work the story around what you have. You know, if you don't have a chainsaw, but you have a weed whacker, it's kind of nice here. Kind of nice, kind of creepy. But cemeteries are a good example of locations. A cheap, free location, which is going to give your movie a lot of atmosphere. And I try to shoot every scene of a movie in someplace interesting. You know, instead of a conversation happening in a apartment, you know, shoot it at the mall. So there's just more to look at, you know, in the background. You know, each shot has just a little more eye candy in there. But tips, if anybody wants tips, the only tip is to just do it. I mean, you know, your first movie is going to be practice. You know, you just have to do it and put everything you can into it, and try to use good locations, try to use the best equipment you can, try to have a good story fleshed out before you get started. Try to involve other creative people. If you know artists or musicians or anybody else you know who's creative, try to get them involved. You know, because it's a community project. The more talented people you have involved in what you're doing, the better chance you have of it working out. So anyway, this is a lot of fun out here shooting this, talking with you guys. I hope it made sense. Got like some people staring at me and shit. Old ladies, look like some mean old ladies looking at me, you know, like I'm out here, you know, doing bizarro stuff around all their dead relatives. But anyways, good luck everybody. So keep making those movies, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.